take a look at the spare defensive ability that barbarian units have. It's called Shield Screen, and you can see it increases bracing, melee defense and shield strength, but in order to see by how much, we need to take a look at the data files. And the special thing about the Shield Screen compared to the Hoplite wall is that it increases defense, base defense, by a factor of 1.5. It increases shield armor by a factor of 1.25. It increases shield defense by a factor of 1.5, and it increases bracing by 4. That means that each of these soldiers is going to have their mass quadrupled against charging enemies when they are in the shield screen. Now the shield screen is going to make the units completely immobile, so it's mainly a defensive ability. And these heavy spears, when I use the shield screen on them, they are going to get an increase that is in relation to their starting stats. So their melee defense goes from 58, and it's going to increase when the formation is complete. It's going to increase to 87, and their armor is going to go up to 74. When we use it at higher quality spears, they're going to get a bigger increase, so they're starting at 65 melee defense and 75 armor, and they are going to go up to 98 melee defense and 84 armor. So since they have the same shields, these units, they are all going to get an increase of 9 to their armor, but their melee defense is going to increase by varying amounts. So the melee defense of these guys, since it's a very good 75, it's going to increase to a massive 113 melee defense, but their armor is still only going to increase by 9. So here's the formation. It takes a little bit of time to set up and to get the bracing bonus, so you can't just hit it and then expect these guys to take charges. You need to be in the formation in order before the charge happens, in order for the formation to take effect against charges. Now, there is another difference between this formation and the Hoplite wall, and that is that these guys won't get a bonus against infantry in their defensive formation, so it's slightly less effective offensively than the Hoplite wall, but you can use it the same way, that you can charge in and then you can use the shield screen when you are engaged, because since this is a completely static formation, it's going to be hard to get infantry to charge straight in, so you might need to charge in and then activate the formation in order to hold them. Now, another thing that is worth noting, and we can just look at this by having them shot at by missile units. I'll take this unit of noble spears against this unit of noble horse archers, and while hoplites become more susceptible to missile fire when they are in Hoplite wall, mainly because their formation allows more men to get hit, not because they raise their shields above their heads. Missile hits are calculated against the soldier entity, or not against the shield. The shield doesn't have a separate entity on the model. It works like if you hit with a missile to the front of these guys, it's going to a certain amount of missiles is going to be deflected, and if you hit from the left hand side, a certain amount of missiles is going to be reflected, but that has nothing to do with the shield model that you can see on the unit. It's calculated against the man entity, so that means that them having their shields up and such is just a purely cosmetic effect. So let's have a look at them take missile fire first from these noble horse archers when they are not in their shield screen formation. They're going to die fairly effectively to missile fire from the front compared to hoplites. But these guys also have both precision shot and heavy shot, so they will do a lot more missile damage than other missile troops that don't have the precision shot. Here they are using heavy shots. They're doing a lot of armor piercing damage, and you can see by the missile trails that some missiles are missing above the unit, but not a whole lot of missiles are falling in front of the unit. A few, but most of the missiles are missing above, and these guys are taking a lot of casualties from the front here. So the noble horse archers are going to be able to get 61 kills, and let's do a rematch where I put them in shield screen. The main differences between the Hoplite wall and the shield screen are as follows. The shield screen increases armor, the Hoplite wall doesn't. The shield screen is immobile, the Hoplite wall isn't. The Hoplite wall gives an increase to bonus against infantry, while the shield screen doesn't. And the defensive increase is bigger for the shield screen than it is for the Hoplite wall. So these guys are going to be slightly better protected in their shield screen than they are against missiles than they are when they are just standing in their normal formation. And I think the reason why is because they also get an increase in armor of 9, which is going to block more base damage than the Hoplite wall, which doesn't give an increase to armor at all in this in patch 15 Emperor Edition. So let's have a look at the kills here when they run out of ammunition. While you are under missile fire, it's a pretty bad idea to put your guys into Hoplite wall because they will take more casualties. But here you can see that they are actually taking less casualties from missile fire when they are in the shield screen formation. So using the shield screen isn't a bad idea when under missile fire, but it's probably more effective to just spread out your guys. And since we aren't just guessing here, I'll just run that test as well. I've tested this before, but it's just nice to show you exactly what I mean, so there isn't any room for misunderstandings. And by that I mean putting them in 2 ranks deep. This is a very standard tactic against missile fire, because the missiles are mainly hitting the center of the unit. A lot of these guys aren't going to get hit by missiles at all. So missiles are roughly falling in, let's see here, missiles are roughly falling in this area. So putting these guys in a thinner formation is going to make less guys get hit, and it's also going to make more of the missiles just pass over the unit, because in a normal formation this formation would be deeper and more missiles would hit. Now it is kind of strange that these archers aren't able to just increase their field of fire as the formation increases, so that they're firing at the entire formation. Less missiles would miss over the unit, but that's just one of the weird things about how Total War 2 mechanics work, Rome Total War 2. It's that these archers and all missile units aren't really able to shoot at the unit as it's deployed, but they are always shooting at kind of at the center of the unit there. So we are reducing casualties by about 20 when these guys are spread thin, so that's going to be helpful, but it's going to make them less resilient to charges, and cavalry is going to be able to charge straight through. So they are taking the most damage when they are in 6-man deep formation. They are taking slightly less damage when they are in the shield screen formation, and they are taking the least amount of damage when they are spread thin. So that's the shield wall, and you can also use the shield wall like you are using your Hoplite wall. So for example, if you need to take care of some Punting swords, let's match them up against the similarly priced unit. So armored spears against Punting swords. You can use them the same way as you would use your Hoplite phalanx. That is, you charge in, you activate the defensive ability, and you should ideally wait some time before activating the ability. The charge bonus is applied for a full 30 seconds, but the bonus is going to decrease as time goes by. So at 0 seconds it's going to be maximal, and then it's going to reduce, and I think it reduces by the amount of time divided by the charge bonus. So it's going to increase by approximately slightly less than 0.8 or something like that per second. So you could argue that it could be useful to activate it after 20 seconds or after 30 seconds in order to get a better charge and to get more into the unit while you are charging. So they are doing some damage on the charge here. We're going to wait not exactly 30 seconds because it's going to be very hard to macro units that way in a battlefield situation. Some people can do it. They can keep track of the time and then activate the defensive ability when enough time has lapsed. But as you can see, this defensive shield screen and the charge, that combination, is going to enable these guys to do fairly well against Punting swords. And even though the Punting swords are swordsmen, and these guys are spears, and the Punting swordsmen are slightly more expensive, these armored spears are going to do very well against Punting swords in melee. So it's a very useful tactic to use both against superior troops and against troops of similar quality. It's going to put the spears on a more equal footing because they will be hit less in melee, and they will get an increase to armor, so they have a chance to remove the base damage that these Punting swords do. And if we look at the weapon damage of the armored spears, they actually have more armor piercing damage than these Punting swords have. So this is going to be a fairly effective way of taking on similarly priced swords. They aren't going to be able to win in all instances, because a lot of dedicated melee troops have javelins that they throw on the charge, and they can do a significant amount of damage. But it's going to enable them to hold for longer, and it's going to enable them to be more effective against melee troops. But it's not as effective as the Hoplite wall, since the Hoplite wall also confers a bonus against infantry on the unit. So they aren't able to defeat the Punting swords here, but they are able to hold for longer if they use the shield screen. So that's it for the Barbarian shield screen. It's a pretty useful tool when you need to enable your guys to hold for longer. It's a pretty useful tool, again, for stopping chariots and elephants. It's more effective on the very heavy units than it is on the heavy units, and I don't think any medium units have the shield wall ability, the shield screen ability. I don't think there are any medium units that can use the shield screen. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I don't think there are. So hopefully useful, and I'll see you again on the battlefield.